Hello, and welcome to the Alchemist Inkwell.
This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people who roll with whatever the universe sends them.
If you're watching this, you might be like, Emily is vertical. Her rectangle has changed. If you're listening to this, you might be like, why does Emily sound different? The answer is because my power decided to go out like 2 minutes ago, right in the middle of us starting to record this. So now I'm on my phone and we're just going to make it work because that's how it rolls.
Yeah.
And I will be out there visiting for the next 2 weeks. So we need to record this podcast episode. So when you're listening to this, it's actually we recorded this 2 weeks in the past because we won't have time to record it once I'm actually out there, which I'm very excited about for Sacred Spaces. But also we need to then do this work in advance. So that is why we are making it work on a phone.
Yeah. So with that disclaimer for starting, we are recording this on the 16th of September. Now, this is important because the lunar eclipse hasn't even happened yet. However, we understand that this episode is going to air on like the 26th of September, which means that where you all are in time means you are very much thinking about the solar eclipse coming up on October 2nd. And we hear you. And while on our personal program profiles, our social platforms, there we are. We will be posting content on this and on our like YouTubes and all that stuff. Don't worry, I'm going to go into like timing, astrology, all that jazz of the eclipse closer to the thing. So as you're listening to this and you're like, it is September 26th, why does this feel so generalized? Absolutely it is. We still haven't energetically gone through the lunar eclipse yet, in the space where Em and I are. So we are going to try to skip beyond the lunar eclipse to feel into the solar eclipse ahead of time, which is why this is going to stay pretty general. That being said, there will be more content outside of this episode from both of us, which will be more specific. Don't worry.
Yeah. Here in the past, the lunar eclipse hasn't even popped off yet. So we were looking at the energy. I'm like, I can dive into it, but I don't have too much to go on energetically just yet, just because the solar or the lunar eclipse ushers in so much new energy that I don't feel like I have the whole picture. It's kind of like I have the like puzzle box picture, but all the puzzle pieces are all spread about. And so like I generally know where we're going, but I don't know how we're getting there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and astrologically, you might be thinking, well, KristaLyn, you have a chart. You can just read the chart. Absolutely, I can. I have been focused a lot on the Pisces lunar eclipse, and I have lightly gotten into the solar eclipse. I do have a lot to say on that. However, it is much more appropriate for a like YouTube video format, and that's where that will show up. So, I mean, I can tell you that it will, according to Ptolemy, affect like sacred rites and changes and things like that. As far as like formatting it into what does that mean for us today? I want to do that in a space where it's going to be a little bit less hectic. So we'll do that later. Right now, we're going to focus on the energy.
The most sacred rite in this country.
Less hectic for me, not the, yeah.
The most sacred rite in this country is happening on November 2nd, and that's
yeah. Well, and it's funny because Ptolemy will say like religious sacred rites, and I'm just like, separate the two for me in modern times, with politics and religions, the two topics that aren't supposed to be spoken of at the dinner table being so closely intertwined these days. I do wonder about that, especially at first glance of the timing of this eclipse coinciding with sacred choices that we make as people.
Well, and in Ptolemy's day, like they were really intertwined.
They
were the same.
They kind of were. They kind of were. Yeah, and Ptolemy, Ptolemy's agenda was a little bit different, and I'll get into all that later too. But yeah, so let's just focus on the energy of the eclipse today. We'll talk about the astrology of the eclipse in a video on YouTube later. And that being said, this is the swan song of Libra's eclipses happening, because we are moving into that new cycle coming up. So it's an interesting time. It's a near total eclipse. It's pretty perfected. I'm not going to call it perfect, but it's pretty perfected.
It's on October 2nd. So let's start there. On October 2nd. First of all. Second of all, very It's a pretty one. I think if you were to be in a boat in the middle of the Pacific and could look up and see it, it would be gorgeous.
With eclipse
Um,
glasses? Yes.
with eclipse glasses,
We
of
always have
course,
to.
but it feels like a pretty one.
Mhm.
Um, I will say it does feel it's very interesting because in a lot of ways for us, it feels very new beginning. And I
Mhm.
really have that vibe that comes with it. Like, okay, stuff has shifted. It's been a wild eclipse season. Let's start like fresh. Like we're cleaning stuff off. We're diving in. There's just a new beginning vibe to it. And I do like that. However, it also feels like a gate closing. And it's not like a happy little garden gate, like, pew.
No.
No, it's like a whack, like guillotine style gate. Um, and that is the picture I get with it, which
Yeah.
is, yep,
So
do with that what you will.
the picture I get is the girlfriend throwing her significant other's stuff out the window and onto the street and like making the fresh start by getting rid of all of the junk from this other person who may or may not know yet that they are no longer welcome in the apartment.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
that's
On that note,
definitely the image I'm seeing.
I actually think there's going to be a lot of breakups during this eclipse season in general. I was channeling this in the other day. I was just like, oh, damn. Like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because Venus is just pissed.
Well, Venus, yeah. So for the solar eclipse,
Hmm.
especially, she's in detriment. She's the ruler of the solar eclipse in Libra.
Hmm.
And she is in detriment in Scorpio. So not only is she not in the sign that she would want to be in, but she can't even see the sign of the eclipse to like manage it. Um, so that's
Yeah.
another factor.
Hmm.
And the eclipse is very close to Mercury, who is direct, but just coming out of combustion or coming out of Cazimi with the sun. So lots of like, what is going on here kind of vibes.
I think this is both a general psychic thing and also just eclipse season because it's eclipse season,
Mhm.
which eclipse season does not have to fall right now, just for the record. Like it's
Yeah,
not like it
no,
always happens in September. Like that's not how it goes. It just is happening. So if you're like, why does we have to have an eclipse before an election year? Because the stars. That's
Mhm.
why. Because shit is this way. That is how it goes. So
Right.
just to like preface that there. Also, I know we're talking a lot about the election with it in general, but I just gotta say, it's gonna be drama. Like when I look at October and the election and things going on and like the political scape, which again is all like from the solar eclipse energy, it all deals with that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. Drama. It's
Mhm.
just drama and chaos and just so much. It's just so much.
Mhm. Well, and the eclipse is going to be visible from North America as well. Like it's happening up straight up for DC. So if you were in DC, like really? There's something
No,
about that doesn't make sense to me.
it's happening over the Pacific and like the southernmost tip of Antarctica or South America, I thought.
Yeah. And why is it but
Oh,
anyway,
I'd look it up,
okay.
but I have no power.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna look this up because it is happening in for the chart of DC, it's happening in the 10th house. So I know I can put it that way. It's happening in the 10th house, the midheaven's in the 11th house. But the sun is up at the time. It's just geographically, the eclipse itself will be visible from more southerly locales.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it is at the south node. There it is. Okay. All righty.
yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah. So unless you're in the Pacific Ocean or the very
Mhm.
like southernmost tip of South America or the northernmost tip of Antarctica, you're not gonna see it.
Yep.
If you
Which
are gonna be in those places, use eclipse glasses, please.
yes, use your eclipse glasses. But also, yeah, so South America, the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and Antarctica just confirmed it online to support what M is saying. Totally correct. So the good news is one of the ways we would talk about an eclipse is if you can see it, if it's visible where you are, then that area is affected. So because, the place where this is happening can't see it, that doesn't mean it's not affected. I've got to say,
Mhm.
like from actually witnessing it, witnessing eclipses in the past where this eclipse, which should not have been like directly affecting something in a place where it wasn't visible. There are other factors at play, climas, other astro jargon things. Um, I will be comparing this probably to America's various charts that we can use for America. There is one that is common, but there are other ones that you can use, and I'll see how that rolls too. But I do feel like there are effects of this eclipse that we notice.
Yeah. I will say I agree. I think we definitely will notice the effects of the eclipse. I also think because of the eclipse that happened in spring that was
Mhm.
over us.
Yep.
Oh, did the power just return? It did.
Hey,
Um,
everything just got
it
brighter.
just got a noise. It was like ding. It was like, oh, is the power back on? It is. Look at that. Okay. Sorry to be distracted, podcast people, but maybe we can hear me better for the
Mhm.
next episode now that we're recording. Um, but anyway, I do also think because of the solar eclipse that happened this past spring,
Mhm.
this is also the closing of that
Yeah.
vibe as
Yeah. And
well.
then
So
thinking about
that
the
ends
timing
that
of
out.
it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thinking about
And
the
that was
timing
a
of it,
big
that's
one.
still, yeah. And that's still playing out.
Mm-hmm.
Because even more to your point, the day of an eclipse is not necessarily when the effects of the eclipse hit.
Mm-hmm.
Ancient astrologers had different ways of projecting when the timing of the omens events would show up. And that is definitely a factor.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely so. Yeah, there's a lot of things. I just think it's going to be messy as hell. It's going to be messy as hell till probably the end of November, like when I look at the energy of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think we get I don't think we get full election results until the middle to end of November
No,
at the earliest.
I've worked with the Aries ingress chart for this for the United States. And some of the stuff that we're looking at there shows up after the eclipse or after the election dates.
Hmm.
But I keep trying to pull us away from the election, but it's so hard because that's the topic of the times, you know? Um,
I mean, it's also what the solar eclipse deals with is like leaders
mhm.
and rulers. So like that's why
Yeah,
we're also talking about it. Is
yeah.
it's not just because like we're talking about the election because we're sitting in this country, but
Mm,
also it's leaders and rulers. Like, and that's what's happening.
yeah. It's an interesting time.
On a personal thing, I think a lot of us, what I would say is, of course, don't do a lot of magic work on the eclipse itself. We
Mhm.
let that flow for us. But it almost feels like some of the things that we have let govern us for.
Uh-oh. Okay, so Charlie, this is the part where we're gonna have to cut until Em comes back in. You probably already know this.
Am I back?
You're back.
Okay. Sorry, team.
All right.
I was lost for a moment.
So you were saying
I was
this
just
is the time. Yeah.
I really think that this is going to be the time when a lot of our the things we have let govern us for the last couple years
Mhm.
stop governing us, and that means like our limiting beliefs or our viewpoints of the world that maybe we're too limited, or maybe we're perfect and we're wonderfully unlimited for the time, but now are not what we're using going forward. I think a lot of those like internal things are going to fall away,
Mhm.
um, which will make equal parts like excitement of like, oh, doing new stuff, and like a weird floating out, not without like without an anchor, just kind of being out and about sort of feeling coming in.
Mhm.
Which is okay. You'll ground down through winter, so don't like stress about that too hard. But if you're feeling that around the solar eclipse, I do anticipate that happening on a pretty grand scale.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the energy I get from it is this sort of, and again, it comes back to that same image of finishing a relationship that was not allowing you to be yourself, of the image of someone
Mm-hmm.
throwing all the stuff out the window. And what that means, because you sort of emancipate yourself from this other thing that was defining you for so long. But now what? And now you've got to go through this process. And I'm speaking from some experience here. So I guess trigger warning, and I know some of our listeners probably relate to this as well. You have to go through this process of like self-discovery, self-forgiveness, processing what was actually happening while you were keeping yourself safe in that period, like all
Mm-hmm.
of these things that we're going to have the not the solitude, but the space of not being responsible for somebody else's safety or somebody else's
Mm-hmm.
emotions. um in order to be able to come back to ourselves. The ultimate like Libra victory is recognizing yourself. My phone just went off. But it's
Yes.
recognizing yourself so that you can have your identity understood, so that you can show others how to be themselves. Like that's where the true balance of the scale comes in, even though Libra energy often guides us to trying to help someone else by compensating for them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah.
On a
I'm
personal level,
really,
I am so ready for this solar eclipse to go down and have all of the eclipse energy not be in one of my cardinal
I was
three. Like,
just
for
gonna
fuck's
say,
sake.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm really ready for the cycle of the Aries Libra thing to move on. It comes to my angles now, but like this has been a lot, being in those equinoctial signs has been just so intense. And
Mhm.
so I'm very much ready for it to move off of those points. Even if it means my personal life gets shaken up a little bit, it's fine. I've had a break. I say it's fine. Watch me fall apart. But right now, I've decided it's fine and it will be fine.
It's going to be super fine. You're all good. It's not a problem. My personal life did not fall apart and it was in my shit. So, like, you're
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
It'll
The
be
only
fine.
thing, and I haven't looked at this yet. I could mollify myself pretty quickly if I just look at the Pisces eclipses and see their degrees and things. Um, but
Mhm.
my IC is down there. So
Mm. Fair enough.
yeah.
It could be a thing. Um, so on that note too, I do anticipate this solar eclipse to me feeling like coming out of my Saturn return did, where it was like, like,
Ah,
yay, I'm
finally,
done
you're
with
leaving
that
me
shit.
alone.
Uh-huh. It's been because it's not just this eclipse cycle. The previous one also fucked with me. So like it's
Hmm.
been a lot. Um, yeah, anyway. On that note, though, too, happy equinox, everybody. The equinox did happen when you're listening to this a little while ago, but we are really, really happy. Welcome to fall.
Hmm.
Enjoy, embrace. And if we're about to see what Sacred Space is, we're so freaking excited about it. So stoked to see what Sacred Space is. Yeah, it's gonna be so much fun. I just
No,
wanted to throw
Sacred
that in there
Spaces,
too.
it hit me today that it's like, oh my gosh, it's next week. And like I'm
Hmm.
ready for it. My pins came in today. Spoiler alert for anybody else, like not going to tell you more than that, but they're coming in today. I'm so excited. We have so many fun things planned for this. And it doesn't feel like, oh, we're putting on a conference or a gathering. It feels like we're creating a space and having a party with our closest friends that we can actually trust. And I
Hmm.
want to thank everybody who comes to Sacred Spaces for being a part of making that environment. Um, it
Yeah.
really is sacred in the most amazing and magical way.
That being said, if you're coming to Sacred Spaces and you have not checked your email, please check your email.
Yeah,
Please check it like
we're
four
talking
times.
to you.
And we're talking to you. We're sending stuff out. And if you didn't read the email, even though you checked it, and you're like, yeah, I'm getting your emails. I'm just gonna give you a little brief cliff notes here. You're gonna want a
Always do
witchy
have.
outfit for Saturday. You're gonna want a witchy outfit.
Mhm.
And on Sunday, you're gonna want an outfit that helps you dress like your higher self, whatever that means to you.
Yeah.
So
And if you
just gonna
don't know
throw
what
that.
that means to you, if you don't know what your
Mhm.
higher self is yet and you haven't really channeled that in, just dress the way that you would want to dress if you could pick what you wear and
All
not
the
worry
time.
about anybody else.
Hmm.
For me, it's it's not what I would wear on the daily because I do know my higher self and I have a joke running with them. But whatever you feel epic and amazing in, wear it that day because we're gonna see you and it's going to be amazing and we're going to see how awesome you feel in that. We're so excited to celebrate that with you. If you are coming to the add-on of Mystery Spirit Theater 3000 on Friday night, bring your PJs or a onesie.
Yes, it will be a onesie party.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. Onesie it up. Onesie it up. Anyway,
It's gonna be a
so that's my
party.
little disclaimer there. The other thing I wanted to bring up is this is a bookend.
Oh, it is, isn't it? Yeah, because
Yeah.
you're ready for October. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm actually kind of not ready because I just finished a book today. Wasn't ready for the book to end. I'm like, wait, that's the end. Um, and I'm probably not going to read the second one in it. So now I'm like, well, what am I going to read next? So
Okay.
this is the perfect
Fun.
time for
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Should I kick it off?
Kick it off because I'm gonna pull up my Kindle and be
Okay.
like, what did I read this
I'm
month?
also doing. Okay. Sorry, clearing my throat. Okay. The first book that I read, I actually thoroughly enjoyed, with a little bit of a rant. Um, because the first book that I read was The Phoenix Keeper. And
Mm,
basically, the whole premise is the world is just the same as it is now with our world. However, there is magical animals. That's where like magic comes from. So in zoos, it's not just like gorillas; it's like magical creatures. So our main character is the zookeeper for the phoenixes at this one zoo, and she really, really wants to get this defunct phoenix breeding program back up
Mhm.
and going. And there's a pretty intense like illegal animal trade and poaching and stuff because there's magical properties in animals, right? So like there's things like that are these little purple ducks and their down smells like lavender, so you sleep really well. So there was a whole thing about these ducks being really sought after for a long time to make pillows and whatever. Like there's a bunch of stuff like that. And if anyone knows me at all, I'm a sucker for animal rights. I think the first animal rights protest I created and did, I was 8. So like I'm a big, passionate animal rights person. So that spoke to me. It was a lot of fun. The main character is an absolutely insufferable human for the first half. I hated her. I almost DNF'd it because I was like, is this going to be a rage read? Like, I hate her. But her growth in the second half, I would say even more than the second half, really does make it worth it. They don't just do the baby growth that I was expecting they would give her with the amount of like energy they put setting her up as kind of a shitty person.
Mhm.
They actually give her like a considerable amount of real and actual growth that I really, really appreciated. Also, she's 28, and I loved that.
Wow. Saturn return.
Um, mm-hmm.
Great time to have a book.
Exactly. I know. I know. I loved that. It was queer. It was fun. I really, really enjoyed it. The representation was lovely. It was predictable as fuck, but like it was fun. So like, who cares? You know?
Yeah.
Anyway, so if you need a fun, like just gonna be fluffy, make you feel good type of read, you're gonna be able to predict what happens, but not be bored because of that.
Hmm.
It's perfect. Is it a 5-star? Absolutely not. But it's also not a 3-star. Like it'll be fun. And you're into like I read it pretty quick because it was super fun. Currently, I'm about to finish The Ruthless Lady's Guide to Wizardry.
Cute.
Um, it's so cute. It takes place in this magical city. I do wish it had like a little bit more world building up front. But it takes place in, magical world, whatever. But it's a huge conversation about class inequality, which is pretty fun as far as like an exploration in a fiction novel.
Mhm.
Because they have commentary on it. It's not just like, oh, there's the pores. Like it's very much like there's commentary. It's also so witty, and they have a dialect that most of the characters speak in the book that like has kind of funny words and ways of talking. And the book is also kind of written in that dialect. It's very almost sing-songy and roundabout. It's so fun to read. It's so funny. I've laughed multiple times. It's also queer. It's really pleasant.
Mhm.
I highly recommend it, especially if you need like a palate cleanser, because it's written very much unlike any other book you're going to read. And it's super fun.
Yeah. I need to put that on my list because I'm looking for a palette cleanser right now too.
It's a good one. It's a good one. Like there's like I said, there's some kind of like more intense themes to it, but it's all the one-liners are amazing because of
Mm,
this dialect thing, and it's so funny.
cool. Cool. Love
Hmm.
it. Yeah. So is that
Go.
is that where you're okay,
I mean,
cool.
I'm gonna read more. Right now it's the 16th, so I'm gonna definitely probably read 2
Yeah.
more books this month, but I don't have them yet, so they will go on to October's.
Yeah, yeah. It's October is going to be a really good bookend episode. Um, yeah, so I finished reading the Infinity Kings saga by Adam Silvera.
Oh.
Also quite predictable. Like from book one, I knew pretty much where things were going to go. But they did it in a way where, huh, the way they play with social media influence in this book series, it was like the most annoying thing, but at the same time you have to check yourself because this is the world we live in and there was so much going on. And it's like superheroes and their magic comes from different constellations that come into alignment and things like that. The astrology is not accurate, but it's not supposed to be. It's a different like universe kind of thing. There are also phoenixes, but there's like it's almost like there are phoenixes that are like actual phoenixes, and then some people have superhero powers, and then some people have like they made their superhero powers, and is that okay? Are these people okay? It's an election year for them as well, and so on the line is how are people with these abilities going to be treated once the election is over? And the running theme is like how do we get the person that's going to treat us well elected?
Mm.
So it's a very complicated thing that makes you really check in with yourself about do I agree with this or not every step of the way, which I appreciated. And then after that, I read Dark Rise because I had seen it, I think on an Ace bookstagram. And I was like, well, let's try this out. The whole book just really wanted to get to the last 10 minutes of itself. And I say that because throughout I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. That's a neat little buildup. I was so easily distracted as I was listening to it.
Mm.
But then in the last 10 minutes, I was like, oh, wait, that's what that was for. Like everything made sense at the end, but it wasn't engaging enough for me throughout for me to like pick up that it was important.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it like emerged into the energy that I think it really wanted to be. Like I felt the energy come into it.
Mm.
But because it was at the end, part of me is like, you waited too long. I'm not going to read the next one. um,
Yeah.
so I recommend reading it. It's fine as a read, builds up really well. Read it for the end, and then read it because you know it's going to be a series. If that's what you're looking for, read it. It is Dark Rise by C.S. Pacat, Pacat.
I have that on my list. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you want to read it because you know you're getting into a series, not because you want to be like engrossed from the first minute. Um,
Mm.
yeah.
It's gonna be a hard sell for me right now.
Yeah,
But
I think it's a 3 star for me, but the ending was a hard 4 star.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, this is gonna be a slight rant because we have a minute.
Hmm.
Um, been watching Chaos on Netflix.
Oh, I
It's
stopped.
bad.
I
It's
stopped.
bad. It's bad. I don't like it. Sorry, no, I'm gonna just do light spoilers. I almost feel blasphemous by watching it because the representation of the gods is
So
so
bad.
fucking bad.
So off.
It makes me want to vomit a little bit every time I
Yeah.
watch it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm sorry, you guys. Like,
Hmm.
you guys are my friends. Like, I apologize. And like, they don't really give a shit. But like, it just feels it's
Okay, it
oh
feels like as storytellers, we know better by now.
it
That's yeah.
yeah. I think okay, things I like about it. There's some Easter egg. Okay, if you guys don't know what the fuck we're talking about, there's a show on Netflix. It's called Chaos. It has Jeff Goldblum as Zeus. That's pretty much all
Chaos
I
with a
need to know.
K.
It's basically if the Hellenic religion continued to be the main religion until modern day,
Hmm.
what the fuck would happen? Basically, kind of, I guess.
Maybe.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It has like a huge cast, which is kind of unfortunate. And like there's some really cool representation things that they do in it, which I kind of appreciate.
Hmm.
Especially for disability representation. Like there's one of the not main characters, but a very important character actually has cerebral palsy. And I was like, oh, that's fucking cool because there's very rarely a character with cerebral palsy, and that's what my son has.
Hmm.
So it's always nice to like see that and understand that. But God, not it's just not it misses all the marks in my opinion. All the marks are getting missed. I don't like the way they represent anything about
Yeah.
it. I do think what the intention was is I do think that they're trying to criticize Christianity without criticizing Christianity
Hmm.
directly. And in that context, I get it.
Yeah.
It's just not enough. Like they just fail at it
Hmm.
really hard. I get it. I get what they're trying to do, and it is a pretty fucking scathing critique of Christianity in a lot of ways. But yeah, it just misses.
Hmm.
It falls flat on its fucking face. Crapopolis is better, and that is a cartoon that is literally making fun of ancient Greece, and it is so fucking funny and so fun, and it does way better
Yeah.
with all of the gods.
Yeah, I didn't make it super far into chaos. Like I don't even know what episode I was on, but I just stopped thinking about it and then moved on to another show kind of thing just because watching it was like having engaged with the energies of these deities and not even as closely as you have, just
Mm-hmm.
being like, I know that's not right. Like, it's just, it feels like having someone talk about someone I know and they're making up a whole story and they won't listen to me when I tell them anything, so I just walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like even Hades and Persephone.
Awful.
Ah, but it's
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know who just like who came up with that. I believe that storytellers do receive information from muses or diamonds or genii or whatever, right? And where did that come from? Like, who is responsible for bringing that into form?
Truly bad news bears. Like
Yeah,
did not. I'm not into it at all.
not my
At
fave.
all. It was Yeah, if you guys like it, we're not trying to yuck your yum in any sort of way. Like, by all means, enjoy it. And if it vibes with you and the way that you work with the gods, that's amazing. Like, please don't think that you have to agree with us,
Mhm.
because you don't. But that being said, we don't like it.
Yeah.
I the only other time I felt that level of like blasphemous myself was one time I was watching a Warren Miller movie. And if you're not a ski person, you're like, what the fuck is a Warren Miller movie? Ski people will be like, oh, Warren Miller, which there's probably like 6 ski people on this entire podcast, other than myself. I am a ski person. So Warren Miller is a ski documentarian. And every year he releases, now his son, because he has passed on, but his release a ski documentary where they do something around the world. And it's a big deal. It doesn't premiere like normal documentaries do on streaming platforms, whatever. They travel to around to all the ski towns and they have premieres before ski season, so everyone gets hyped. So we always have it sometime in November. It's in one of the casinos here in one of the big showrooms, and the local ski resort will like really heavily participate in it. It's a whole experience and it's super fucking fun, and I've done it since I was born. We go every year. And so one year I was watching a Warren Miller movie, and in the Warren Miller movie, they heli skied and snowboarded. It was a skier and a snowboarder, and they heli skied to the top of Mount Olympus. So they dropped out of the helicopter at the top of the mountain and they skied down. And that was the only other time I was like, oh, this feels like blasphemous to my soul. Like, it's not. Anyone can hike the mountain. I would hike the mountain. But there
Yeah.
was just something about it being like,
Felt like
they didn't even
dropping on it.
pilgrimage. Yeah, like, well, they didn't even pilgrimage to the top. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't even climb. They just dropped. And I think that was like the biggest issue. And that was the only other time I felt like that level of like, oh my gods, I'm so sorry. Like, to the
Yeah.
gods themselves of like that. Um, and then the other thing was this show. So when I watched the first episode of Chaos, I was like, oh, I felt this before. This is not good.
Yeah.
Yuck. Um, but yeah. So if you're watching it, enjoy. If you're like, I don't know if I want to watch that, I don't blame you.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not one of those you can't miss it things. If you don't catch this wave, that's okay. There will be another one that will probably be better.
We're talking about it because it just came out.
Yeah.
That's why we're bringing it up. That's
Hmm.
why I brought it up. It just came out like not even a month ago.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anywho, cool guys. We hope that your lunar eclipse went great. We hope your equinox went great. We don't know because we weren't
Yeah.
there yet. For us, it will be this week that we're recording it. And we hope that your solar eclipse goes amazing. We also don't know because we're right there with you. We don't know
Yeah.
what that's going to be. That being said, we will be at Sacred Spaces, and we hope to get to see a ton of you, and it's going to be amazing.
You know what, though? At this
Mm.
point, there is something that everybody can know that we will be announcing at Sacred Spaces, and then I'm pretty sure we announced now.
I think we're going to announce it on the next episode.
Are we?
I
Stay
think
tuned.
so because this would be before Sacred Spaces.
Yeah.
This one airs. So
Oh, you're
stay
right. This
tuned.
one
Anyway,
is
it's a
before
big,
Sacred
exciting night.
Spaces. Yeah.
Huh?
There's an exciting announcement in the next episode or that episode after that, because the next episode is actually going to be the live from Williamsburg.
We'll probably announce it there anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Anyway, there'll be something real exciting, and you guys are gonna be real hyped. Um,
This feels about as graceful as our sign off.
on that note, we hope that you go make
Go
some
make some
magic.
magic.
Look at that. Perfect.
Oh, time gets me every time.